It's the 401 show at crbradio.com. Woohoo!
Kelly Jean.
All right.
All
See,
right.
I nail it every time.
Best intro ever.
Yes.
You just put us in a good mood. When you're on, everyone's on. When you're
Right.
not on,
Jazz hands.
everyone's down.
Everyone jazz hands. Jazz
I can
hands.
relate to
Do
jazz
it.
hands.
Jazz
No
hands.
jazz
oh, you didn't get the jazz
Jazz
hand
hands.
memo? We're
Oh.
cutting those out of the show.
I'm the only
Can't do
one.
Hi,
Meeks
Meeks.
is doing jazz hands for me.
I was a theater kid in high school, so I'm most definitely doing jazz hands
And
behind
all that
the
jazz.
behind the computer screen
All
here.
right.
What's up?
Okay.
I don't know.
So we got to delve deep into our minds
Enough
right
with
now.
the inanities.
What shall we delve into?
First thing I want to say, thanks upstairs, God, Jesus,
sir.
the whole entourage that keeps the Illuminati from killing us. We thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
we're
you,
getting nice
Jesus.
My
weather.
first question was to KJ.
Okay.
So after this, like all this stuff happened with Catherine, who I think is coming by today. Remember the 315 message and
Yeah.
the gift bag.
Of course.
So a week later, what was that? Does it register? What are your thoughts about it? Is anything?
I think it's amazing. I think it was really a nice gesture. And as soon as I move, I'm going to start actually getting into the Bible she gave me. I just have to move first.
All right, we'll see if she shows. You guys want to make bets?
What did I do? Did I start reading it?
No, I think you will. I was going
Oh.
to say whether Catherine shows.
Oh, it'd be wonderful if she did. I can
We're
give her a
already
nice
betting
hug.
that Shaltis will be engaged within 4 months.
No way, man. Don't send them down the road like that,
Hey.
man.
So we have Raina coming to
Keep
town?
them in your thoughts.
Well, I think that's where Catherine's going to sit.
Okay.
If you want to sit till she comes, have a seat.
Hey.
But whatever happens, Eric cannot yell at me, so you got to clear it with him first.
Nice
How are
and
you
easy.
doing, Raina?
Hey, what's up, Raina?
I love your outfit.
We've got all these beautiful girls and beautiful boys.
As
It's
we're
a
getting into
beautiful
this
day.
stuff, and I'm not just saying this to you guys, to people listening, we are covering stuff that it's uncomfortable, it's disturbing. And sometimes I have to remind myself how disturbed I was when I first started seeing this for myself, because we're glossing over a lot of things that can be overwhelming, and we're not really taking any time to kind of do the healing, the spiritual, the giving yourself time to get strong, because we just keep hitting with information, but you feel overwhelmed. It's natural, and it will go away. And maybe Meeks, you can comment on this, but did you feel overwhelmed when you were learning this, and how do you feel now, and why do you not feel overwhelmed, if that is the case?
Oh gosh, yeah. I was telling you guys before. I mean, if you would have seen me, I would have looked like a completely different person. Even when I woke up to truth and spiritual truths, more than anything. Just, I have in my testimony, which we can link in the description box, but I have it in my testimony that I heard a demonic voice in my ear. It said something to me, and
Right.
it's just horrifying. I got down on my knees and I cried out to God. I've never heard any voices since then click
said
like that
no.
clear in my ear. Well, I don't hear voices, but I did that night, and I was having demonic dreams and stuff at that
Wow.
time. But I was a quivering, quaking mess of a person. I was just basically non-functioning. But now, through prayer and through reading the book of Ephesians, honestly, I went to a pastor because I was in such fear all the time. It was a deliverance pastor, actually. He told me to take the 30-day book of Ephesians challenge to know who I am in Christ. And Ephesians is like the spiritual warfare book of the Bible. And it's kind of getting you ready for spiritual battle. Never since I did that, I really did that. I read it for 30 days straight, the book of Ephesians. Ever since I did that, I felt right as rain. But that's God, though. He takes your fear away. But
So all that was leading into just a passage, which I get now. I didn't at first. It used to frustrate me. I'm probably still working on the last word of this passage, but it's 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, which goes, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." And that's very true. Once I figured out who the real enemy is, how they operate, the fear goes away. They really become not these scary animals, but more just like annoyances, like a bug just flying. You just get away from me kind of thing. And the power, there is no doubt that, we're not going to get into personal experiences about this now. Meeks probably has we probably all have a couple to share. That, we are made up of mind, body, and spirit, and the spirit that comes from God is just a lot more powerful than any other spirit you can tap into. And we might try and put in that segment, Meeks, of that reformed Satanist who sent his demon on a curse mission of some sort, and the demon got bent out of shape.
I got to tell you this, because if you're born again Christian, you're spirit filled. I mean, you need to know how powerful the name of Jesus is. You do. You need to know about the blood of Jesus Christ. We summoned up a spirit, and the reason we did that is one night one of the witches came in. One of the young witches came in, and she said, "There's a lady down the street who's a Christian, and she's threatening to expose us, threatening to expose our group." So what we did is we got in the circle and we summoned up a spirit named Astaroth. Now, this is supposed to be one of the hierarchy of the demons. And over in the side of the room, this orange cloud started appearing. And we told it what we wanted it to do. We sent it off, and it was gone. We came out 5 minutes later, came out of the circle, everybody talking, having a good time. We were getting ready to break the meeting up. All of a sudden, this orange cloud started appearing in the side of the room again. And I looked at it and I said, "Oh, everybody back in the circle, quick." We got back in the circle, and this cloud appeared again. This time, this thing was in a rage. I mean, it was angry. And it spoke to me just like I'm speaking to you tonight. I mean that audibly. And it said, "Don't you ever send me after a Christian again."
Yeah. Demons don't like being sicked upon Christians because they know they'll lose every time. And I laugh, but it's true. I mean, this is actually what ex-Satanists say. They will not hex Christians or curse Christians. Well, the smart ones won't. We'll just put it like that.
That's probably why they push people away from the Lord. Mm-hmm. That way it makes them easy targets.
Right.
Of course.
No, in fact, we're going to... it's hard to prove whether we are listening to a real deliverance or exorcism. In my opinion, this deliverance guy is actually having a conversation with a demon. And there's a lot of really interesting information that comes out because they talk literally for about 10 minutes about what it was like in heaven before, why this demon does not want to be kicked out, and what the existence of these demons is. Could be total BS. But I don't know, Meeks, you saw it. There's something about it that makes me think that it's a real real
worth
event.
Listening to. No matter what your opinion is about spirituality, these testimonies are definitely worth listening to.
You're about to hear a deliverance service at a church where devils were being cast out of a 16-year-old girl who received Jesus into her heart just in time. When I heard what the demons were saying out of this young lady, my life was changed. I accepted Jesus and turned my back on my sins and the world. The demons crying out of this young lady will describe hell, heaven, and how they planned to get her soul into hell.
Come out. 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 Come out.
Why don't you like people?
I don't like you.
You don't like me?
I don't like you. I don't like anybody. I don't like nobody. I just don't like nobody. I hate everybody.
You don't like nobody?
I hate everybody. I hate everybody. I hate everybody.
Why? We ain't done it to you. We ain't done it to you. Why you hate us?
Because
why?
Because you guys are just, you get to go to heaven. I just hate you people.
Well, you were in heaven once. You could have stayed. Why didn't you stay?
Oh, that thing. He just, ooh.
What did he do? What did Satan do?
He told us we were going to get over. He told us we were going to be greater. He told us.
He told you, and you believed it?
Yeah. I did. I believed. I believed. I believed. Why did I believe?
Yes, and it's too late now, isn't it?
Ooh, so late. It's too late.
Hey, what happened when you were cast out of heaven?
Jesus, he just...
What did he do?
I don't know.
Have you ever been to hell?
Yes.
What's it like down there?
It's so dark. It's so hot. It's so hot. It's burning up down there. People screaming. Everybody's screaming. Devil's down there. All of us is down there. Satan, he's down there. He doesn't nobody likes it down there. It's so hot. 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 It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It's there. Everything. It hurts. Little things be crawling all over the place. It hurts. Little bugs. Everything. Bugs all in you, all over you. People screaming. It's just so hot. Flames. Everything is hot. It's hot. It's hot. It's so hot. Why did I do it? Why did I do it? Why did I just stay in heaven? Why did I just stay with Jesus? Oh, why did I stay with Jesus? Why? Why did I believe him? Why did I believe him? Why did I believe him? Girls, torture. Oh.
Did you ever ask Jesus to forgive you?
No.
Why don't you ask him to forgive you?
No, it's not gonna work. It's too late. Oh, what did I say? What did I say to you? I miss him so much. I miss him so much.
Never can tell. I don't know. God might have mercy on you. If you stop doing the things you're doing and making people sin.
I can't be a good person. I can't be a good person.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't.
You used to be. When you were an angel, you were different, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. When Jesus cast us out, he just, all of our minds just went evil. Everything was so evil. We look so ugly.
What do you look like?
Oh, he's just so ugly. I can't stand to look at myself. Oh.
Can you tell me your name?
Yeah.
What is it? Huh?
Aneda.
Aneda. Well, Nana, you have to come out. You know you have to come out, though.
I know.
Anything else you want to tell us?
I just want to go to heaven.
What does
I
Satan
just want to
do?
go back.
I know you want to go back to heaven.
Oh, he just beats us. He beats us. He just beats us. Oh, he beat me so bad one time.
Why does he beat you?
Because he wants us to take everybody to hell. He wants everybody, and we don't do it right. He just beats us and beats us, and we do something wrong, he just beats us. Sometimes he just beats us because he doesn't have anything else to do. Oh,
he's a terrible person.
He is. I hate him so bad. Oh. I don't know why we hurt. I don't know. We're supposed to be heavenly beings. We're just not supposed to hurt. We're not supposed to feel pain. When we was in heaven, I didn't feel no pain. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel nothing. I was so peaceful. Everything. I didn't know what pain was until it hurts. It hurts.
Now, devils can feel pain now?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know what pain was. I didn't know what the meaning of it was. I didn't even heard of a word named pain when I was in heaven. Oh. And a fire. What was a fire? Why did I leave? Why did I leave?
Have you ever been in the fire of hell?
Yes, he dumped me in so many times. Oh.
And then he let you
And
out.
then he let me come in her. He let me come in her.
Well, he should have known better let you come in her. Did he know we would cast you out?
No, he thought she was going to go to hell. He knew she was his. He knew it. So he let me come in here for a little while. He said I'd come in until he takes her. And then all of a sudden she's just going to go on and get saved.
He was going to take her.
And she got saved. Before he could take her, she got saved. She got saved. She got saved.
Now she belongs to Jesus.
Yes, she does.
And
She does.
And you have to come out of it, don't you?
I know. I don't want to make her sin. I didn't want to make her sin, but I knew if she didn't, and she was just going to resist us, and she was going to get saved anyway. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she just got saved one night.
And you lost control of her.
Yes. I couldn't do anything to stop her. I tried to hinder her. I tried to tell her not to go up there. Don't go up there. People going to look at you. Don't do nothing. Just sit here. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened to her. She just changed all of a sudden. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't even tell her, I couldn't even speak in her ear. She was so high on the Lord, I couldn't do nothing. Not only me, the other ones tried. They tried so hard. They tried to.
You tried to stop her too.
They tried. They wanted to kill her. They were going to kill her. He just would have told me. If we would have killed her, he would have just told me to go to somebody else, would have signed me to somebody else.
Well, you still have to come out. Then. You have to come out.
I know. I don't want to go. I don't want to be in hell forever. Oh, I want to be under the trees. I want to be where it's so nice and peaceful, Lord. It's been so long. Before this earth was ever even thought of, I was there.
Before this earth was started?
I was there. I was there.
In heaven?
In hell. He put us there in hell.
Before the earth?
Before the earth.
We were cast out before the earth then? Rebelled before God made people?
Oh, no, we were thinking about it. We were hugging together. Oh, Lucifer, he was such a nice angel, and all of a sudden he just decided he wanted to be ruler. And I thought he had a good chance of it. I don't know why. I don't know why. Oh, I don't know why. Oh. Why? Why? Why did Jesus make him go, not us?
He made all of you go.
He made all of us. All of us had to go. Oh, take me back.
Hmm?
Take me back, Jesus.
Come on out of there. Come on out of there. That's it. Come on. Come on. Come on out of there. Come on out.
There's we'll get in again. This is one of the things the media will never cover because it will help lead people to God. But there's a lot of research and material out there on that. And believe it or not, NASA, which is going to lead into aliens, which is going to lead into demonic. It's not really called possession. It's called demonization. That's the term they use because you're never really completely possessed. Implies you have no control. Now, there are some people that have gone that far.
Right.
I mean, their bodies are just nothing but empty vessels.
Oh, Linda Blair. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, maybe.
Things on that.
Well, you can make your head
Kidding.
spin around.
Stories.
Just kidding.
I
I think that was one of the first scary movies that really affected a lot of people.
The biggest fear typically of men are not known things. It is the unknown, which is one of the elements that's going to be in this final deception because a lot of things that our eyes have never seen are suddenly going to be in front of us, and people are going to freak out. My point is, stay cool. There's a reason you're learning all this because once you break through, there is a light at the end of the tunnel that you'll realize all of this was worth it. You're not just learning about misery so you can walk around worried about humanity for the rest of your life. All right, just to remind you guys, the theme of the show is we are making a case that these ancient scriptures are true. Slowly, we're on week numbers is episode 9. How are we coming along? Have our meters moved at all?
Oh, yeah.
Is anything chiming?
Oh, yeah. I see signs of all the things we talk about right after we talk about them, which is freaking me out. We'll talk about a subject, and then I'll be online, and
That's the thing.
and I'll see the subject that we talked about, like when we talked about Columbia, that symbol. And then the next day I open up my Facebook, and there's that article about who posed for the Columbia Pictures.
Meigs, do you think that's random accident, or do you think that is
CERN?
Do you think that is CERN or Al Gore, or do you think that's God actually doing something?
In my opinion, that's not something to shrug off. And we're spitting truth, so listen up.
It was just
Al
weird.
Gore was yet another joke from our chat room.
No, I seen I
You
didn't
get
know
the
why, but I
didn't really
him.
get the reference either, so
Yeah.
don't feel bad.
I seen him in there. I'm like, I don't know where this guy
Because
came
Al,
from.
because
I know who Al Gore is. I just don't know.
because
where he
Meigs
fits
made a joke
into-
about CERN inventing the internet, which might have some truth to it, and but Al Gore had claimed to invent the internet. So just you know what?
No, I did some research on CERN.
We'll
and
do joke training
CERN
after
is the reason we
the
have
show.
the internet, supposedly.
It
That's-
is,
You know,
it
that's
is.
what many people say about it.
And the you got a monster drink going somewhere, but it's interesting because the www is equivalent to the monster, the little 6 sign that makes up the 666 on a monster. So really, our internet is a 666 dot whatever. I mean, the beasts. Remember the mark of the beast, which is a number 666. It is the mark of a man, but it's also the mark of a system, and that system identifies itself all over the place. In fact, we're about to do an experiment, Meigs. But offhand, you're a flat Earth girl. Okay. But part of the round Earth theory, it has as part of its theory that the Earth's axis tilts, north and south, depending on the telemetry, every 6 months by a certain number of degrees. Anyone know how many degrees that tilt is?
No.
Oh,
Do you know where I'm going with this, Meigs?
Is it
Is it
66.6 degrees?
Yeah.
I don't want to say that.
So a 90-degree angle is how many degrees?
90 degrees.
Thank you. That's a perfect right angle. All right, so check this out.
I'm glad I got that right because if I didn't,
Yeah.
I know
I'll never forgive myself.
So you're right. The tilt of Earth's axis is 23.4 degrees. Does that mean anything to anyone?
Not yet.
Okay, so
From 90.
you remove. So what is the actual degree of the Earth's tilt? You take 23.4, subtract that from 90 degrees, and you have 66.6 degrees. That is the Earth axis.
Ooh.
But we talk about it in terms of its tilt.
Ah.
Just saying. And
That's
it's maybe,
weird.
if it is a theory,
That's weird.
it would have been invented by Satan himself, and maybe that's how he marked it. Maybe. Who knows? CERN.
That's
You went
our
into
guy.
CERN. Did anyone do their CERN homework?
I sure
I did.
Yeah.
I've been
Okay.
doing it for 2 years.
I just
I'm a Mandela effect person.
I just got into it.
Dwelt.
so.
Do you now understand at least how the scientists are starting to merge what we think is spiritual
Oh,
with
yeah.
something you were having a hard because last week you were like, oh, okay, this is starting to sound ridiculous. Like they're accessing dimensions and other spirit beings and whatever.
No, the whole the water experiment that you were showing us made a lot of sense, and then we saw that article that came out this week about the Canton, like in Canton, they're having all the water thing. Like,
Wiggly?
yeah, just
Oh, I didn't know that.
crazy.
I don't read the
You
news
did
anymore.
too. In Canton, they're
Yeah,
having
I saw it.
unexplained
Dude, there could have been a
vibrations in Canton.
There could have been
Their
a
water's,
genocide in
like-
Canton, and I would not know it right now.
There's
To
like
be honest with you,
they'll
I barely
set
know
their
you
water
guys
down
were even
and their
here.
water's shaking. Their lanterns or their chandeliers are shaking in their apartments, and they
I've
can't
been
figure
thinking
out
about it.
why.
Thing.
It's
Yeah,
happening
Oh,
all
that's
over the
what
country.
someone was saying.
Yeah, so bizarre.
I don't want to scare you guys, but
Yes.
Meigs and I were doing a little math roughly on, no one can date set. And if anyone that claims to be, a believer is date setting, forget them right now. Because they're either really young and don't know what they're doing, or they just don't know what they're doing, or they're screwing up on purpose. But we're down to very little time here, man. I don't know. This is something I think we're going to see, not just in our lives, but soon. Not like December, but maybe. I'll tell you this.
We feel it in our bones. I laugh, but it's no laughing issue. But
Look,
yeah, then again, it's just like you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to set a date. You don't want to say we only have 5 years left or 10 years left. But the fact of the matter is, there's the great work or the great calling coming about, and that's a larger plan for genocide, for mass genocide. Not to freak anybody out, but
No, and that's what ties together is the plans that have just come out throughout history from essentially the group we call the Illuminati matches exactly what the Bible predicts is going to happen. Just written in words that were used for the words we have today. There are too many things that are... I just don't think we have like 30, 40 here. Who knows? They've been saying that for a while. But the end of the world discussions, people think they've been saying that forever, which is not true. They really did not begin until 1948. When Israel was reestablished, that's basically when every person that has been studying the scriptures said, wow, that is the last missing piece before now. That's when it began. Just to light a fire under you guys. Because where does God say he will put signs, Meigs, for us so that we know what's going to be happening?
it's a complicated question. But
is there maybe a passage in early Genesis along the lines of I'm going to use the sun and the moon for signs?
okay.
See if you can
Yes.
find that while
That's pretty.
Well, I explained
interesting.
something that could be a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But it means there's a little urgency here. But I also want you to know that when I say this, there's not fear. I used to have fear about this. I was very fearful. We'll talk more about why not a little bit later. So, you guys now know that I happen to believe these scriptures. It goes against everything I was taught. This was not a, hey, Helen, could you go shut that door, please?
I need to give a shout out to my mom who may be watching.
Hey,
and
Mom.
to just say, Mom, everything you've been telling me for the past 10 years is being verified right now.
Yeah.
She's been saying the same darn thing to
If
me.
your mom has been praying for you to
she
get
prays for
woken
me
up,
all
this
the
might
time.
be the
All
answer
the
to one of her
time.
prayers.
Yes.
See?
See, Mama? You done right by your girl.
My mama too. My mama too.
All of our moms.
Well,
September 2017, I believe, or maybe it was August 2017, and it was right on the feast of something, Meigs. We had that super popular
Red moon.
lunar eclipse that went from Seattle across to Florida, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Now, the first very strange thing
The
about
blood
that.
moon, that one?
No, it was
No?
the
And the
solar
eclipse?
eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the one thing that happened is that it was a retrograde motion, which, if you
Backwards.
eclipses should happen in the other direction.
Right.
It should happen the way the horizon turned.
Right.
We're gonna show something that's gonna put some jaws on the floor here.
Oh, no.
Okay, so I believe it was August or September of 2017.
August 23rd.
All right, we got one line through the United States. And it literally, I believe, it cuts right through Missouri, Meigs. Sorry, man.
Yeah, Southern Illinois.
Now, remember, God's number is 7. Now, why don't you look, Helen, or someone, to find out what the path of the next solar eclipse that is just like this one, when is it going to be? I'll save you some time. It's 7 years, almost to the day.
Yes.
And the path of that eclipse is going to start essentially in San Diego and go across up through New England, forming an X over the United States.
Yeah.
There are more signs going on in the sky. If you really look, and I'm not talking about going to your backyard and looking up. Right now, we've got 5 billion cameras in the world that are looking up. You can see what's going on all over the world in the sky
Yeah.
if you want to. Or we can watch Netflix reruns, which I do too.
Keep looking down.
You mean going to observatory to watch through
You
their
can watch
cameras?
it online, though. People,
No, I mean-
people will post what they see through the telescope.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we now have photographic telescopes, and we're actually going to get to that.
Yeah.
All right, so CERN.
The Vatican owns the biggest telescope,
Yes.
correct?
Now,
It's not the biggest, I don't think.
No.
it is one of the
But it's
biggest,
infrared.
Lucifer.
Yeah.
the
Infrared.
Vatican's owns
Lucifer. But we'll get back to that later.
We will.
On a
Because
sacred
the
hill.
Vatican is part of, remember, they're predictive programming us into accepting aliens. So the Vatican's already come out to say something just ridiculous.
We'll bless
If and
them.
when aliens show up, we will baptize them. So they're prepping. All right, so we did a lot on CERN last week, and if you saw the edited show, we really just, you'll get a good idea of what's up with CERN if you saw our edited show. So I appreciate Meigs being all covert about it, but I want you guys to watch that. You're going to need to see it.
It was really
Okay.
good, and I'm not just saying it because I was in it.
Oh, you watched it?
Maybe.
So I discovered, now I already believe CERN is a portal to hell. It is what the Bible said would be happening in a place called Abaddon, because CERN was built on the ruins of a town called Abaddon. Guys that don't even believe the Bible are freaking out, going, dude, we are tapping into another dimension, and there's these creatures coming out. And they don't know the Bible, but then I'm reading the Bible going, in this city called Abaddon, they are going in the last days to open up the gates of hell, and it's going to be hell on earth.
We're looking for how God holds everything together. That's why they call it the God particle. They're trying to find Jesus, but they don't want to find Jesus. So they're trying to find what is it that holds all matter together. However, they also believe that there are parallel realities around us, other dimensions, and there could be other intelligence there. Another thing we Christians already know, right? Why not just come and ask us? You don't need to build a collider. However, there's a reason God put them on the other side of that veil, and you might not want to open the door. The director of CERN has gave interviews to the British press in which he admits that's what they're trying to do. They want to open a door to another dimension. And he said, when we open this door, he said, something might come through it. Actually, they built, they have the god, the Hindu god of destruction that destroys at the molecular level is right out in front of the offices of CERN. It's named after Apollyakon, the gateway to the god Apollo. But what does the book of Revelation say? That an angel comes down with a key to the bottomless pit and opens that gateway. And guess who is the god down in there? The king over the bottomless pit, Apollyon, Abaddon, the king of the bottomless pit.
They're trying to open the door to the gate to hell.
Right.
Okay. Well, here's the thought. God literally sealed and locked demons into the earth that would not be released until the last days. And now we have evidence that man is the one that's trying to open the door and release them.
So I think that's what they're doing. So I'm already sold on the
That
fact
movie, The
that
Gate. Remember that old movie, The Gate?
the Ninth Gate
No, The Gate.
with Johnny Depp, you
No,
would have seen
I'm
that
talking about
one.
when the kids blow a hole in the backyard and there's these little creatures that come out. That's what I'm talking about.
Predictive program. All right, I discovered something new about CERN that only further solidifies the fact that these mother effers are absolutely down with the devil. So they put out a promo video. Now, this is a scientific organization. They put out a promo video where the scientists do a dance. Okay? Now, you might recognize the dance because it is a demonic dance. It's the same dance that you would have seen in that little video, My Pet Goat.
Oh, I didn't see My Pet Goat.
I didn't
Okay,
see
now
that.
we're getting
Sounds like a really fun
we're getting into
children's
some
video.
deep dark demon. This is the story George Bush was reading in the Sarasota classroom. By the way, 6th graders were being taught to repeat the following 4 words: kite, hit, steal. What was the other one, Meads? The teacher had the kids
Kite, hit, steal, plane, or something.
Wow.
something like that. And I'm sitting there going, this is like a 1st grade activity, not a 6th grade activity. So these George Bush, this is all a stage. You got to understand how they stage this.
It was like a ritual chant.
And not knowing that she's actually participating in a ritual. Maybe she is on it. Who knows?
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake. Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steal. What word? Steal. Yes, steal. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Playing. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steal. Yes, steal. Get ready. Play. Yes, playing. Get ready.
And it doesn't mean the teacher's in on it.
Oof.
It just means something with an official thing goes, we want you to practice these words. And the teacher's like, yo, the president, well, I'll do that. Let's do it.
Fool me one. Fool me one. Shame on. Shame on. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again. Can't get fooled again. Can't get fooled again. Can't get fooled again. Can't get
Anyhow,
Wow.
so that same dance we're going to find here in this CERN video that I'm about to hit play on. And then I'm going to I want you guys to notice there'll be a part where we see, remember what an Ouroboros is?
Yeah, that's
the snake eating
the
itself.
snake, yeah.
All right, it's the same thing we talked about the three-headed god last week of Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. One god creates so the other can restore, so the other one can maintain, and it's a constant cycle, like the snake eating itself. This goes back to one of Satan's demonic kingdoms,
I'm
Egypt.
excited to see this.
Okay.
Why do they all look like they're
The
the
symbol
Blue Man
goes
Group
back
in
to
this
Egypt?
still?
What?
The symbol
Don't
goes
they?
back to
Ouroboros,
Egypt.
that's where it first appeared, as far as I know. Okay, so this is an official video put out by CERN.
By the Blue Man Group.
This is the most expensive machine that has been built in the history of mankind. And here's what their scientists
But wait,
are doing.
what's the story behind when they filmed this? Was it during that?
This was during 2015. They ignited this machine.
Okay.
Or were prepping to do it in
Looks like
2015.
a huge car motor or something.
But something happened.
Okay.
And it was right on the blood moons of we had one, and I want to say it was 2015, September 23rd of 2015. That's the day this machine fired up.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people think when God puts a sign up in the sky that something's gonna be visible to the world now. It does not work like that. The sign that he put in the sky above the birth of Jesus, which I now believe the story, that the Magi followed to go find him.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this was a massive event in world history, but we're only talking about 7, 8, 9 people at a manger and maybe a couple of farmers nearby that actually even were aware of what happened. It would only be thousands of years or hundreds of years later that we realize that was a massive moment in history. So God puts this sign up November 23rd. Everything's normal in the world, but that's the day that the machine that's supposed to open the pit of hell fired up.
That's what this machine is specifically built for?
Go to the lower dimension.
They won't come out and tell
You need to watch our little, because
Yeah,
I made that
it's really
literally for you. You need to
Okay.
watch our thing. Okay, let's just watch this and see what we see. So this is from CERN and CERN. We're going to just watch it to the point where we see this right here. Okay, see the Ouroboros? All right, you see that Ouroboros?
No.
Did you guys see the white
Yeah, I saw the white.
the white circular line? Here it is
Stars
again.
and
You see
dance
it?
of the cosmos. Yeah.
Did you guys catch
Yes,
anything
yes,
there?
I
What'd you
did.
catch?
The head of this snake and the circle.
So while I'm editing, I'm slowing this down and going, what the?
What is that?
So you're
no,
watching you're watching it frame by frame, right? To
Is
try
that-
to
that's not in
edit the
P.
video.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, now you see the Ouroboros. This is actually a still from the video we just saw.
Okay.
Now, do you see right here the actual serpent they slipped into this frame?
Yeah.
Right here, because that did not belong there.
Yeah.
There is no doubt.
Okay.
Because that takes a little extra editing. These are not accidents. That's on purpose. All right, any questions about that stuff so
No.
far?
Well, you
Creepy.
see that same type of cloud pattern a lot in the sky. You know what I mean? Not getting into going back to weather modification, but you do see that
Patchy,
not
yeah.
the
Yeah, if they could
Some
repeat an
patchy
Ouroboros in
trail.
the clouds, they probably would. They're very spiritual. Oh, stumper of the week. Okay. Here's where the balls come into play.
Okay.
Meigs, any thoughts on anything?
Oh, just that video with CERN. I forgot exactly what they titled it, but it was a performance art piece collaboration. So it was like artists collaborating with CERN to do a project. But don't let them bamboozle you into thinking this is a completely innocent, totally organic art project, because they use art to as a vehicle for this demonic symbolism and stuff. This is all very well planned out. So don't be fooled.
Without a doubt. You can find basically art that survives. There's a common denominator I've discovered in all art that has survived through history. It is either obviously blessed by God or blessed by Satan. If you make art that is not influenced by one of those two, it's like being a one-hit wonder. You're gone and forgotten. But if you do something significant for one of those two, it seems to remain throughout history. I mean, why is Dante's Inferno one of the few books we remember? You know? Okay, so here's the stumper of the week. And Meigs, I still do not have an official position on flat Earth. However,
Hey, we can still be friends.
if I had to bet, I would probably guess that that is, in fact, one of Satan's deceptions, is to fool us about what we live on. Because we all know what we were taught, okay? So I don't know, is this camera, can we get this camera on me? Because I'm going to do something
Yeah,
here.
you're on
Will you
camera.
help me, Sid?
Yes.
Okay,
Here, hold my ball.
just one of them. Pull them
Be
apart so
gentle.
far.
Be gentle.
All right, this ball right here, we're calling Earth.
Earth.
Okay? Sorry, didn't mean to mark you up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now here's what's tricky. You're gonna actually have to hold that ball steady. I'm gonna tell you why.
Don't you hate when
This
men
sounds
say
like
that
the
to you?
date I was on last weekend. All right, this is the sun, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Hold the sun for a second. All right, I'm gonna circle this little one right here because, Sid, that's where you live on Earth.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. Here's the sun. The Earth goes around the sun, right? Right? Okay. Just show us what happens in 24 hours. Just show us that. Really, the Earth gets 1/4 the way around. Because normally that
No, it's the Earth that rotates.
that doesn't happen. No, in 24 hours, this happens.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're talking 12 months. Okay. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
No.
Oh,
Okay,
jeez.
you ready?
Yes.
All right,
Okay,
so in
okay.
24, just show me what happens in one day, 24 hours.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great. And it was noon when you started, and you stop again, and it's still noon, right?
Yes.
Now let's let everyone know that that's Earth. No, we'll do it this way. Okay. All right, you just did one day.
Yes.
We know now the Earth is a little bit further around the sun, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What happens after 90 days? Essentially 3 months, a quarter of the year. So the sun's going to go from here. It's going to go over to here.
Yeah.
It's going to be spinning a lot, right?
Yes.
So let's spin it and spin it, spin it, spin it, spin it.
He
spin
actually
it.
expects us to have smarts.
Okay. So if we started off on January 1st,
Do you want me to hold it or you got this?
maybe let me handle it because we're gonna get into the back alley.
You're better at handling balls.
Oh, no.
Okay. It's
Didn't.
now noon on April 1st. It's 3 months later. Which way is this facing? Which way is your house facing?
Um,
It was facing out this way, right?
what do you mean?
After 20, so your house, here's the sun.
So it's south first, and now it's like.
Now we've turned around. It's still 20. Remember, every 24 hours, this dot always ends up facing back to you, no matter where we are, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does everyone follow me on this?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay.
In 24 hours, it goes back to the same point.
Right. So 24 hours later, it's going to be, let's say midnight, because it's dark on the other side. So let's say it's midnight over here. So April 1st at midnight.
Should be dark.
We're here, right? Let's do another 3 months. Let's go another 3 months out, right? 24-hour days, everything's spinning, spinning. It's midnight, remember?
Yeah.
It's dark. 6 months ago at midnight, it was dark.
Yeah.
Now, it's 6 months later. Here's where Sid lives. The sun is here. The earth is here. Now, it's supposedly midnight, right? It's supposedly midnight, right?
Yeah.
But can it be midnight if you're directly in the middle of the sun's path?
I mean, no, because then it wouldn't be dark anywhere.
All right. But is this not what we were taught in school?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, but you have to go where we talk about sunrise, sunset.
No, you don't confuse this.
Okay.
Don't confuse this.
Okay.
The model we're given
Boom.
in every school, which has this a sun-centered universe, has these little balls spinning around on an axis.
Yep.
And we know they do one complete revolution in 24 hours.
Right.
We take a half a year's worth of revolutions 6 months later. The Earth has gotten all the way. We're now on the other side of the sun. But if it's still midnight here, because we've never observed that in real life.
Right.
Because it's actually 6 months from now, it's still going to be dark at midnight. This model is not right. Something's off. Did I make a point here? Did you guys get this?
Yeah.
How do you guys explain it?
I'm not good with scientific things, so I'd have to really sit back and work out what
Roll
you
a
just
big
did.
fat
Well,
one.
what I'm saying is
Think
we-
about
At
it.
least I admit that, and I'm
We-
not going to
we-
say blindly oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but we do know there's say like daylight savings time.
Yeah.
Right, where you
Don't-
I know I'm complicated.
Yes,
I'm trying
you can
to,
find
I'm
an
trying
hour
to find
here,
an answer.
but dude,
yeah.
let's just be honest. We don't.
Especially
So it
over
should
time.
be dark, is what you're saying? It should
Well,
be
it just
dark.
doesn't make sense for it. Just the story that the way he
Telemetry
explains
throws
it.
off north, south, east, and west. But
Okay.
let's just say this is east. At the end of every 24-hour period, Sid's
Should show up
house
the
will
same.
be facing east.
Okay.
6 months later, after all these 24-hour periods, her house will still be facing east. But it's not going to be noon. It's still going to be midnight. But it's midnight in the direct sun. You got to understand that
Right.
model completely falls apart right
Yeah.
there.
No,
Okay,
I
that
made
agree
sense.
with you,
That made-
but I think
you
we're,
just broke it
we're
down where it
missing
made sense
something.
to me.
You know, I don't think it's that cut and dry.
I'm like 5 seconds behind you guys,
Right.
so I'm just trying to follow.
Me too.
But
He's saying if it rotates,
Like if it actually is scientifically proven how he says it is, it shouldn't be exactly
that's
how they
what's
say
so
it is.
silly because we should all know this. I mean, you know, because that is
You
exactly
guys-
what we're taught.
I'm mind blown.
We have a 24-hour day.
Yes,
But it's really 23 hours and 56 minutes, blah, blah, which is why we have a leap year every 4 years to capture those lost 4
Minutes,
daily
right.
minutes.
those lost work days.
Every 24 hours, we are taught that this thing makes a full revolution, that the
Yes.
earth is what's moving.
Yeah.
The earth is what's moving, and we're all moving around the sun, which is great for a sun-worshipping people. You know, the sun. But that model, literally,
Yeah.
if you
it's
play
gonna
this
be-
out for 6 months, just visualize what it is they're
Right.
teaching us. I don't have the
Spin,
answer.
spin.
But
Yep.
this certainly opens up some possibilities. I mean, what
Yeah, it
we're
does.
taught is obviously missing something huge.
Right.
Right.
Because we've been, most of us have been alive over 30 years in this room, 40. Some of us even more.
Yeah.
And I don't ever remember at midnight it being bright out. Unless you're in
Right.
Alaska.
We all love time-lapse videos of the stars moving across the sky. But really, we are the ones who are moving, tumbling through the universe on a giant, wet rock vehicle called Earth with a windshield called the sky. Looking from above the North Pole, the equator spins counterclockwise at about 1670 kilometers per hour. Relative to the sun, Earth orbits counterclockwise at 108,000 kilometers per hour, along a path tilted 23.4 degrees to its spin. Within our local neighborhood of stars, our entire solar system is drifting 70,000 kilometers per hour, roughly in the direction of the bright star Vega in the constellation of Lyra. And our solar system is part of a giant galaxy called the Milky Way, on a plane tilted about 60 degrees, approximately like the windshield of a car. Looking from above Earth's North Pole, our entire solar system races clockwise around the galactic center at about 792,000 kilometers per hour. Our whole galaxy is also moving through the universe. This is how you, on Earth's surface, are moving through the universe aboard spaceship Earth.
Something to think about.
That's crazy.
And Meegs, that was for you. In fact, I think I had something in here called Meegs Week.
Meegs Week.
We're going to forget this.
Nugget of the week.
Well, an interesting thing for me is to measure the crepuscular rays of the sun, like the angles of the sun's rays. When you plot them out and look at how the sun's rays are shining down to the earth, there's an angle, and you can trace the sun rays all the way back up to the sun and measure out that the sun is very close and local. Some people say it's only 300 miles above the earth. So it's an interesting thing to consider, the sun's rays. I just really don't think the sun is 93 million miles away.
Well,
but they do have footage of private experimental balloon experiments where they tie a GoPro to a balloon and they send it up there, and you can see video footage of the sun and the moon. Homegrown organic footage of the sun and
Well, that's the Red Bull rocket. You should look into that. Some people claim it literally got
I saw
it got jammed in the ceiling because it was spinning, and then all of a sudden it just jams.
Oh yeah.
And then it starts falling down. Now that thing took off from, I want to say it was Arizona. Everyone's expecting to go retrieve that rocket in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Because as it's flying up, the Earth is rotating, right?
Yeah.
And when it lands, an hour later, they're going to be 1,000 miles away. Trust me, the math is right on that. So they're looking out in the Pacific, but no, the rocket came back down within a mile of where it took off, meaning the Earth didn't rotate while it was in the air. And if that were true, why do we take airplanes to fly to Los Angeles when we could just take a helicopter, float for an hour and a half? That'll get us 1,500 miles west, maybe not to L.A., but Colorado. Just saying. Okay. Later. We will cover Steve Sims later.
Physics here.
Yeah.
A lot of math.
I know. I'm not good at physics or math.
Don't get intimidated by physics or the details of stuff. And this is why I love metaphors and to break things down into their simplest pieces.
Yeah.
This is the sun and this is the earth. What we were taught
just doesn't add up.
Doesn't add up.
No, I agree.
Oh,
I
but there is a 66.6 degree angle there. Okay.
See, and I always fall for, like, if you can explain it in those type of terms for me. If you can explain it like you would explain to a 5-year-old, I get it. So,
yeah, but
so long story short, exactly what you just summed it up as, I understand that.
Now, it's not
thank
the
you.
atmosphere that's turning and not the base of the earth. That's what I was thinking. Maybe the atmosphere is turning, but the base.
We're not doing a flat earth show today. Great question. And we are going to tackle it, if nothing else, just to make Meegs happy. And frankly, I want to do it for me. But Meegs, this is all part of you. That I think this is called Meegs Week.
Oh, great.
Oh.
Phaedrus, old Greek dude. Things are not always what they may seem. Very true. So the big question we started off, because the NASA landings, the Apollo landings were this positive conspiracy. Well, why would we do that? These guys want to destroy everything. Why do something that makes us feel good, like we accomplished something that has good juju in it? There are other people. Now, this totally makes sense to me, but why would NASA, this clearly demonic organization, which we're going to get into, why would they lie about the shape of the Earth? Well, here's what someone had to say. Well, if there's no globe and there's no rotation and there's no orbit and the sun's not in the middle of the solar system, it means that the Earth is the middle and there is no Big Bang theory, and Darwin and evolution are BS, which that we can prove scientifically. There was no missing link. We still haven't found them. And it's not like we're looking for one missing link. We should have found millions of missing links. We have found 0.
Wow.
That means we are not here because of randomness. This means this situation is very unique. We are not one of billions of planets and stars. We're the center of something, an intelligent designer. And the one that claims to be our designer says he loves us and wants us in his kingdom, but he cannot take us without our own authority. He will not take us against our will. Now that, to me, I could understand why. Because if you're going to fake, if Werner von Braun was right, and they're going to fake an alien invasion to get us to finally end up doing what the Bible said, which is to praise some, because remember, Satan's a counterfeiter. Half demon, half man, might be sold to us as a half alien, half man, probably a Nordic because they're good looking.
Like
And that's going to be our Antichrist. And we're going to buy it because the technology and the light show they're going to put on, we're going to think they must be aliens because they're so advanced.
Like a knockoff Gucci.
But they've been here the whole frickin' time. And you cannot have a staged alien invasion unless we're a little ball surrounded by a bunch of other little balls hanging in space. Does anyone recognize the image they're looking at on screen now? Does this look familiar to anyone? Yes. Okay, this is the orbit right here of the ISS. And by the way, if you've ever heard a Russian person say ISS, they're saying ISIS.
Ooh.
ISIS. The ISS. Think about that. ISIS, the rebirth, Egypt, demonic, everything coming out of NASA has a connection. Okay, so they put these images on screen during, NASA broadcasts, whatever, and this is the orbit of the ISS space station. Does anything seem odd about this? Has bothered me since I was
it's not going in a circle.
I was
It's like a snake.
Yeah, it's not a straight line.
It's like a snake.
First of all, if the equator is where they say it is, so this right here is my home country, Colombia. And I know the equator, in fact, let's just call this line right here the equator. Now that should be the course of a logical orbit.
Oh, yeah.
How much fuel are they using to zigzag back? See, this is not a natural orbit on a round world.
Hold
Just
on.
something to think about.
No, okay, I'll watch it again.
I'm doing flat
Yeah.
Earth this week. That's my
Man.
research. That's my research this week.
No,
I'm just
not
saying
getting
the
into it.
the
I'm not getting into it
answers
yet.
the answers are all over us.
Podcasts and all that. Just
Yep.
easy listening.
Look, the only reason right now that flat Earth is more believable than 19 Saudis did 9/11 is because, gosh, our parents and our grandparents believed it was round. So, I mean, they would have figured it out. Really? Would they have?
Yeah, but
I mean, like growing up scientifically, they would say, gravity and I was raised to think that it was round. I mean, and they scientifically sort of back that up in school,
Yeah, I know people will do if I'm standing in, like you're saying, if you're standing in Grozil, how far does that cargo ship head out before it's out of my vision?
Right.
Is that true? Right? Where you see it go over the horizon. That's why everybody thought it was flat. I guess that's where I'm going.
That's
from
what my
everything you're
dad taught me, but I've now seen with my own eyes high-powered
And it's still there.
vision equipment where you can see things much further out than the 17 miles that it's supposed to take to disappear.
Oh, wow.
1948.
Wow.
I mean, we've known the Earth is round for a long time, right? That's what
That's
we were taught,
I was
right?
told. I never questioned it.
Okay, well, anyone ever heard of Sir Frederick Hoyle?
I have not.
famous astronomer. He was on a level with Einstein. Here's his quote from 1948. This was in, what the hell was that in? I can't even read it. New Scientist. Interesting quote for 1948, which, by the way, do you know that our military, we won World War II using flat Earth maps? Just saying.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's crazy.
And, speaking of Navy folks, talk to some people in charge of navigation on ships and see what they have to say about the shape of the Earth. Now, they won't say it out loud. I know we got 2 Navy people here. Okay.
Josh O'Brien could be watching. He's Navy, right? He's a CB.
CB, oh, and the
if
engineers
you're
of
watching,
the Navy.
Josh,
Good.
let's see what you have to say about this subject.
Remember, most people in organizations are they themselves brainwashed, and they don't know, and they just, well, I work at NASA.
Right.
I would know if it was a flat plate. No, you wouldn't actually.
Right.
Right, another demonic organization. We'll get into them later. Sir Frederick Hoyle, I thought for 1948, one of the world's most famous and renowned astronomers had a pretty interesting thing to say. Once a photograph, here's his quote, once a photograph of the Earth taken from outside is available, once the sheer isolation of the Earth becomes plain, a new idea as powerful as any in history will be let loose. So it's almost as if, as recently as 1948, we're still looking for conclusive proof of what the shape of this thing is. Now, would it be up Satan's alley to fake all of this crap going back 50, 60 years? So by the time we get here, we're 3 generations into people that are certain we know what the makeup of our universe is. Because, I mean, my parents told me, and their parents told them.
Oh, you mean just a progressive lie that's constantly told and added on to where we're like, oh,
look,
yeah.
right now, our kids are
to be
being
true.
taught from, I've seen it in their textbooks, that 19 Saudis did 9/11. That will become a historical fact another generation or two.
Pearl
And the
Harbor.
people that thought 9/11 was an inside job will become a little historical asterisk that, you know, it's kind of like the Gulf of Tonkin. We rarely talk about that when we talk of Vietnam, but it's the most catalyzing moment of the 60s.
But Pearl Harbor, even when you really look to see where Hawaii's at, it's so far away from the mainland, yet you had the whole mainland freaked out, you know, when Pearl Harbor happened. And I'm not taking away from the tragedy. I'm just saying where it's at, its body is way off from the U.S. mainland, yet everybody here in the States was freaked out, like the world was coming to an end.
There was another reason they were freaked out, though. And it was in 1942. This was right after, you know, I just happen to have this image in here. This is like totally out of order. But in 1942, have you guys ever heard of, well, you're going to hear this title, but have you ever heard of the Battle of Los Angeles?
No.
I have heard of that.
You've heard of the movie, right?
No, I've same thing with
I've
research.
heard of Escape to L.A.
No, where they fired on that the Army or whatever Air Corps we had fired tons and tons of ballistic missiles up, right? There was something.
Well,
in
we
the
didn't
sky.
have ballistic missiles yet.
Right. Well, that's cannons.
So
or
it's
whatever.
1942. Okay. Remember, Pearl Harbor happened at the end of 1941. Now, something happened in Los Angeles because we did have gun embankments all over the West Coast, Tony, because you're right. We were worried about an invasion from Japan, like a human invasion. What's interesting now is to go read what the military generals of Japan were talking about at the time, saying, we could never invade the United States. It's uninvadable. And the emperor's like, why? And he's like, because every citizen is armed.
Yep.
And he goes, we will be fighting more soldiers than we will find blades of grass in a field.
There's a gun
That's,
behind every
so
blade
when
of
you,
grass.
listen, so folks, criminals will get guns if they want them.
Right.
We have freedom because the population have. We give that up, and we are going right to prison within a year or two. And
So
there's
we need our guns.
no 2 ways about it.
We will not relinquish them.
Okay.
So 1942, this ship shows up, has the exact same MO as the Phoenix Lights.
Wow.
This thing's moving slowly. It's massive. It's bigger than anything.
That's an actual picture?
This is out of the newspapers in 1942.
So those lights are coming out of the sky, whatever's in the sky?
We have spotlights on it. We have anti-aircraft guns. We are pelting this thing.
Okay.
Our planes at the time, our fighters, the P-40 Warhawk, the P-39 Air Cobra, the planes we would have been using are hitting this with everything they can. Nothing. Everything just bounces off it, and it just keeps going. Now, we don't hear about that, but it was all over the news.
Right.
And now for news of our own West Coast, we take you to Los Angeles and the report of Byron Palmer. Anti-aircraft guns went into action against unidentified aircraft in the Los Angeles area shortly after 3 a.m. Pacific wartime this morning. The anti-aircraft guns began barking during a blackout ordered by the 4th Interceptor Command at 2:25 a.m. The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach. Army officials declined to comment on the possibility that the object might have been a blimp. However, it required nearly 30 minutes to travel some 25 miles, far slower than an airplane. Watchers on the rooftop of the Columbia Broadcasting Building in the heart of Hollywood could plainly see the flashes of guns and searchlights sweeping the skies in a wide arc along the coastal area. U.S. Army planes quickly took to the dark skies. At 2:27, all Southern California radio stations were ordered off the air except those in San Diego. Searchlights closely followed the object down the coast and kept it centered in their glare. Shells frequently could be seen bursting near the object, but none appeared to hit it. The shooting stopped about 3:30 a.m. Then the ship disappeared for the second time over the ocean. We return you now to CBS in New York.
Interesting. All right, we're starting to get now back into NASA here. So part of our theory is that. Oh, wait, first we got to do something. Because we're talking about the history of NASA. We went back to the Quran, remember?
Is that where we left off on?
Ish,
last time?
yes.
Ish.
Talking about how the Quran predicts that there's going to be a break in the moon. And it's going to be in the last days.
Split.
And a whole bunch of people are going to think it was fake.
Yeah.
Wow, pretty good prediction for the Quran. Now, if I'm the devil inspiring that book, I can pretty much see that that's going to happen. I'm in control of that. I don't. So, but it's interesting that that was predicted somewhere.
That the moon would crack.
The passage from the Quran, it's 54:1-3. It reads, "The hours come closer and the moon has split. Then they saw a miracle, but they turned away and said, old magic." They disbelieved.
Old magic, yeah.
Followed their own opinions, like the earth is actually flat, and adhered to their old traditions.
Just
So,
say,
and then we already know that the time NASA announced the departure of the lunar lander from the moon, the second it was announced was at 1:54 and 1 second Eastern. It was 54:1. It was the exact same time as the Quran Sarah, which is another name for the chapter.
Wow.
All right, we're gonna we'll get back to the Quran in a second. Meeks, I want you to look up.
Hold on. Do you think that's not by chance? Do you think that that's spiritually provoked, or do you think that
What?
Predicted.
When you said when the lunar dropped, that it was at that specific time?
The time that NASA announced that the astronauts were done gathering rocks. They get in the lunar lander, they're about to fly back. The second we've seen it, because we see the little cameraman following the.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there were servos there, right. That happened at exactly 17:54 and 1 second Universal Daylight Time, which is 1:54. And
my point is, do you think that it's somebody in NASA that did that, or you believe
that is not a coincidence?
Okay,
First of all,
spiritually,
I doubt we were on the moon to even take off from it. So the whole thing was staged, including the depart time. And I think Satan, if he's got a whole bunch of Muslims, he's trying to convince that this is the true book of God. He's going to use that to go, see, the prophecies in here come true. I mean, the exact time, you can trust what Muhammad said.
That's crazy.
But he's in control of that one completely. And he's patient. I mean, that implies that this plan, see, we think of plans in terms of, well, if a human can't capitalize it in 30, 40 years, they're not going to bother doing it, which makes it very hard to see a plan that began at least 632 AD. Here's another little hint. Pope Leo the 13th, Meigs, look up what he had to say about. Now remember, this is not a crazy conspiracy theorist. This is the Pope, one of the most powerful men in the world. While he was Pope, he had a vision. He's walking out of a cathedral. And Meigs, I'm hoping you're going to give us the actual words that were spoken. He falls down and he has a vision. Now this to me is credible. He witnesses or hears a conversation between Jesus Christ and Satan, or so he claims. Now, in this conversation, now you need to also know that the entire entourage around the Pope, everyone blacks out. Like, no one remembers anything but the Pope. So you've got 15 people that are like, they came out of it. The Pope's freaking out because he just heard Jesus and the devil speaking. And here's essentially what that conversation was, is the devil says, I can turn your church against you. Now, he's not talking about the Catholic Church. When he says church, he's talking about the ecclesiastia. This is the body of Christ. This is the believers. He's not talking about the Baptists or the Presbyterians or the Catholics. He's talking about the bride that Jesus is going to marry. That's the loophole that they're using to get us into heaven. We're marrying God, in a sense. That's why all these metaphors of marriage are in the Bible. We're not going to get into that today. Pope Leo XIII, these two guys talk. Satan's like, I can take your church down. Jesus says, go ahead and try. He goes, you couldn't. Or what do you think you can? What do you need to do it? And Satan needs, I need a little more time and a little more power. Jesus says, you've got it. And Jesus says, how long do you think you'll need it? And Satan replies, I believe he says 75 to 100 years, okay? Because this was going to be the 1900s. We're going to be the century of Satan. So he's either crazy or he's looking for even more attention than he has now because he's already a pope. Or maybe he had that conversation. Just another little, doesn't prove a damn thing other than this man, I believe, believes something happened. But if he did witness this conversation, it's another little sign that we're in the last moments here, which could be years, but
I just think
we're in that realm.
I don't think we've got 30 years to F off. And
I just think what's crazy, though, with, going down these alleyways and, learning all these things about what we're learning about, when you're born and you're raised, even in a church or whatever, they tell you don't believe in magic, don't believe in spirits, like ghosts and, and I brought this up before, but it's like what we're getting into is so much about the supernatural. And
you still, it seems
how do we, explain to people that they should believe in this or that this is real. You know what I'm saying?
Think of it like this.
Because you're told your whole life you can't believe in that. That's not real. Supernatural is not real. There's no ghosts. There's no, so you tell yourself your whole life, no, this isn't happening. This isn't real. And then we're getting into this, and it's like the whole Bible, everything, our world is built around these forces, good and evil. And how do we really relate to people on a reality level that this is real? That's where I need to come from right now.
Learn from my experience then. Maybe
Okay.
Meigs can help you too. Because
Right.
what I want to do when I first learned this is share it.
Okay.
That's when you know.
I'm learning from you, and I actually believe you. You're one of my good friends.
Hey,
and
don't.
so is Meek,
but
so
don't even believe
I believe
me.
you guys.
Believe your own eyes. Do your own research. This is where salvation gets very individual. You're not saved with your buddies.
It's just so scary because you're yelled at. No, this isn't what religion's about.
We gotta-
You can't
that's
think that there's
because-
ghosts. You
Well,
can't
say- I
think
mean,
that there's witches or spirits.
That's what
or,
you were
or-
taught
or
in your home.
demons.
But was everyone taught that? Were you taught that, Raina, for instance?
I sure as
Were
hell
you taught
heck
that?
was.
Not necessarily. Well,
I was told you don't believe in things like that. That's not real.
Well,
parents did the Easter Bunny with me, so they kept me.
Right, same,
They
and
let me believe whatever I chose.
right, and Santa Claus and all that. But this is on such a deeper level, and it's just so hard to grasp when we're talking about it because it just seems like we're talking about a Harry Potter novel.
And that's no accident. Look, Satan at one point in history, he got to within 8 people of proving God wrong. The 8 people that survived on that ark. And he thinks he's going to get all of us. So you got to understand, we're up against something much more intelligent with a long memory. They understand humanity better than any other human understands it.
We all need our wands, our Harry Potter
You
wands.
still, it seems like you think the supernatural, and I was joking about this with Meegs, might be like a place of like magic and unicorns and fountains and rainbows.
Because that's what, when we're speaking about it, that's what it comes off as. It comes off as magic and power and spells and rituals and
well, he's showing you the bad guys.
So movie fantasy,
but it's really
what it comes
science
off
and vibration.
It actually is, and that's what, because we were taught a bunch of BS.
Right.
And there's some quotes in here that
it's scary to grasp.
At
when
first
you're
it
told,
is. That's why I was like,
of
I
course.
sometimes freak, because I'm totally desensitized to it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If some
like,
thing from an
amazed.
underground base comes in here, I might soil myself. But I'll at least know what I'm dealing with. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to start wearing diapers pretty soon. Yeah, exactly. But the Bible said what's coming is so scary, it's going to give people heart attacks.
Oh, of course it is.
And if you're not ready for
course
what's
it is.
coming, you're just...
I've seen Momo. I'm ready.
I've been ready my whole life because I've been bred. I said my grandma put the fear of God in me, so I've been ready my whole life. But I've also been told not to believe in magic or things of that nature. So
the quote... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I've seen ghosts before, so that's why I believe.
I've seen some supernatural things, and
So,
I do believe in that.
So have I, and I did not
but
believe in the supernatural until recently.
I didn't relate what I've seen or what I've experienced to godlike experiences or being saved or anything like that at all. It was like totally separate.
I can tell you can be shut down to it too. I think he only reveals
I'm not shut
it.
down. I'm very open to it.
Oh, you can be.
I know you are. I know you are.
It really depends on how you were raised. Look, if you're Jewish, it's because you had Jewish parents, all right? If you're Catholic, it's probably because you had Catholic parents.
Sure.
Right.
So understand, we're just inheriting whatever it is our parents inherited from their parents, from
society.
And so this is what happened when I was going down that rabbit hole, KJ. I kept trying to integrate what I still believed of the world with all this new information, and it just got to the point where, like, think of a Jenga tower, Jenga blocks. And as you discover, oh my God, CERN's evil. Oh my God, they are doing predictive Oh my God, they are brainwashing us. Oh my God, there is a spirit.
You had to come to a realization where you just were like, this.
So right now, your metaphorical Jenga tower, it's still standing, but the support beams are coming out, and you're starting to feel the cognitive dissonance. It's starting to get uncomfortable. Now what'll happen next is you're going to get to the point where you take out that last piece that brings it all down.
Right.
And when that happens, it's like you have undone everything you've ever learned. You are now staring at a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And
Now this is where I'm really going to be able to connect with my mother because she's been on this journey for a really long time, and now is the time I'm going to be able to maybe relate to her a little bit more.
That's what happened with me, KJ. My dad has always been, really religious, really Christian, and it was just I had such, I don't want to say animosity toward that side of him, but being so super atheist, it was such a huge turn off whenever he would talk about that. It was just
I was just scared of God and religion my whole life.
But you know what? The truth doesn't care about our feelings. I know a lot of people have a lot of feels towards Christians and Christianity in general, but the truth is the truth, and spiritual truth will just whack you upside the head when you stumble upon it. But it doesn't care how we feel about it, and that's kind of what's cool about the truth is that it's going to remain the truth no matter what anybody says about it.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Sydney? How do you feel? How were you raised? According to religion, how were you raised?
Both of my sides of the family were Christian. but I was the black sheep, of course. You know?
Well, I was too, so don't feel bad.
So,
loud and proud, black sheep of the family.
My dad's side was very, like, they put a lot of pressure on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
they
mine
kind of
did
forced
too.
their religion and their beliefs
Mine
on
did too.
everybody else. I would say things like, "Oh my God," you know, at
Like,
their
you
house,
can't
and
use
they
the
would
God's name in
freak
vain.
out.
Like, yes.
You know, it was just like a normal thing. I didn't mean to like use the Lord's name in vain and stuff like that.
Right.
Like they took it pretty seriously.
So when you grew up, you were a little bit offended by the religious, stigmata that they wanted to put
by
on
being
you.
pressured into it. Like I basically just kind of told them like, yeah, it's fun. Like I get to go meet like kids and stuff, you know, because I'm a kid, you know,
Right.
back then. But I told them I
still a
didn't
kid.
want to like get saved and all these things like under all these false pretenses because
Right.
I'm a kid. I can't make that decision for myself
Exactly.
at that time.
That's
So
how I raised
I just
Anthony.
told them with
Yeah.
all honesty, I'm like,
Yep.
I'm not willing to kind of just do it because you guys think that that's right for you, for me to do.
And
for
I'm
me
glad
to do it.
that you had that option because a lot of kids are just raised into that. you
And
know?
so later in life, I actually like got saved on my own terms, but it wasn't in a church. It was like in a lake that I chose, and I took like a pastor that I knew that was ordained, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But I didn't save myself to like who people think of as God. Or I don't know. I had my own beliefs at the time where like I just needed to kind of get some things off of my chest. And I wanted to like devote myself, you know, to something greater that I believed in.
Just one thing I want to say, piece of advice, only because I love you and I care about your soul. And this is where, when Christians comment on stuff like this is where we get accused of being judgy. Because I'm not. I mean, you guys should know
You're not judging.
I try
know.
not to be. If I lost my freaking train of thought,
The baptism.
Going with the religion.
We're talking
on a
about
personal level.
if we're talking about eternal salvation. All I would say is be very, very certain. And there's something that comes over you when you're looking for God. Have you guys ever been in love to the point where you're saying to yourself, "Oh, I know this is the one. I know it." Do you know?
Devin.
I'm feeling that now. All right, you guys know that feeling I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Now, of course, most of us have been wrong on all those because we're pretty much single here. But that feeling is what you will have when you know that you got it right. You know? Do you know what you know?
I get what you're saying.
You'll know it's right.
I'm just saying.
I did it for my own healing at the time. It was a completely like
Cleansing.
it was a cleansing thing. I had so much that had happened to me, even like in that specific space where I went to get saved, quote unquote. I had a very traumatic thing happen to me there. So I went there for my own peace of mind and forgiveness because I had to be the bigger person in that situation and do some forgiving that wasn't necessarily deserved, quote unquote. But I mean, that's not what forgiveness is about. You know what I'm saying?
I had the hardest time with that.
Is there, when you get saved, is there almost like a sense of how you would sage a house? It's almost like you would get saved in that general way, or when you get saved every single time, are you actually being saved? You know?
Yeah, I don't like the term saved because that makes it sound like it's an event that occurs in the past. I think your salvation, it really almost takes a Trinity form, which is you are saved, you are getting saved, and you're going to be saved. But I think if you think you're saved because you were at a county fair 8 years ago and some dude came out of a booth and said, "Hey, do you believe in Jesus? Oh, you're saved. Good job. Go about your life." If your life didn't change if you haven't rerouted, like if something big has not happened, you weren't.
Right.
And believe me, Satan would love that. Someone that thinks they're good. And what does Jesus say? He goes, "There's a lot of people on Judgment Day. They're going to be like, didn't I get saved in your name? Didn't I know who you are?" And he's going to be basically, "I never knew you." And I just want to make sure that doesn't happen to anybody in this room. I
didn't claim to know that guy that day.
Meigs, what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, for sure. Really, the the born again Christian perspective, which will make some people run for the hills, or like it sounds like nails on a chalkboard to some people. But truly, Jesus said, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you cannot." Oh gosh, I'm gonna botch this verse up, but he basically said you must be born again, not of flesh, not through somebody's womb, but of the Spirit. You must be born again. Jesus said that. And for me, that happened like in the form of a prayer, and I just cried out to God, and then I felt this extreme peace. If you can feel an extreme peace, that is what I felt, and it was just washed. It washed all over me, and I felt amazing. But the thing is that makes it different from any other spiritual experience is that my whole mindset changed to where I wanted not to sin, which sounds crazy, I know, but like I didn't want to. I was interested in the Bible. I
stopped
interested
sinning,
in finding out who Jesus was.
which is really weird.
That's amazing.
I was gonna say I started once I met you guys again. I was doing great
No, I
for a
mean,
few
like,
years,
like
but
sinning
now
in the way that I've sinned in the past, I've stopped sinning lately.
the thing
and
is,
I'm broke as hell, but I am enjoying my newfound.
yeah, I guarantee you. Well, I don't want to put words in God's mouth.
I have supporting.
You are
like,
gonna
aspects. Like it's working out.
if you have thrown it up to God for real, and that's
Right.
and He knows it's real, you won't ever need money from whatever. Just your shit will get taken care of.
It's
Just
already happening.
it will.
It is. It's already happening.
It is, but
Yes.
that's why once you get it, like once you know, wow, heaven's real, that's where I'm going. This is all a Monopoly game. No pressure anymore. It's like, oh, okay. Life gets so much less complicated, man.
No
Like,
more
believe
rat
me,
race.
I have pains like all of us do. We're all going through things. You don't get out of this life without going through things. And I used to hate. I gotcha. I used to hate literally when people would talk about, the power of Jesus Christ will save. Really? The power of Christ will compel me to do what? To have my head spin around? Yeah, thank you. That's not going to help.
I think it's a real journey to be good, though, and it's easier.
It's hard, yeah.
Well,
it
this is
hard.
actually so.
You're just so well. To be a good person is easy.
No, it's not.
But to be a person who's not deceitful in their goodness.
I agree with her.
is
Being a good
hard.
person
because
by
the
your.
devil comes around so much that it's work to be a good person.
But to be a good person who's not deceitful in their goodness is
See,
hard.
that's something about your heart, and I don't know if. I mean, God can save anyone, but I've met some people whose hearts I'm like, this thing will never turn around. They're dark, and it's going to be like.
Because in a way, you feel like you're saving people when you're saving them in that way, or you have that kind of a relationship with somebody. But in the long run, it's not healthy. It's not good for you. It's not good for that person. Yeah, it's when you say you're going to be good, it's a lot different when you're in the industry that I've been in. So
Understood. And you have pressure to stay in it.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
Financial,
financial.
No, and then you got your customers
also,
going, dude.
Right, and also you think that their mentality, because you feel like you're stable in their life. And
Yeah, because they.
and you want to.
See, and that's like where maybe your heart's pure because you actually.
But see, that's you putting the work in, not doing it.
I
though.
care
That's what
about. I
mean.
just care about
The work
people
is not
in general.
So I'll just give you one example. I've talked about weed. I've had a few vices and addictions in my life. I know everyone.
The devil's
it's
lettuce.
scary.
The devil's lettuce.
So, but I'll tell you this: I smoked it every day I didn't even start smoking until my 30s.
Smoke weed every day.
Then I wanted to quit in my late 30s, early 40s. I tried doing it because something inside of me was going, this is wrong. Like, to an extent, weed is awesome, but it's like if you smoke it too much, it goes about 53% bad.
Nope.
Sleepy.
I know when
you
you
gotta
go,
be me or Sid.
I used to
and
smoke
then
all day, and
like
you're
just
like,
wake up in our bodies, and
oh,
then you'll understand
the atrocity. I totally get that.
Right.
My point is the things that God wants you to clean up, you won't even really need to try that hard. They're going to kind of happen
And they
like
are.
the addiction,
So
the
weird.
addictions, the vices, the things that have literally been the demons in my life
Yeah.
started naturally just disappearing. And now the weird thing, because I'd been fighting to get rid of them, Now I wasn't even trying, and now they're just.
We've only got like 3 minutes left, so let's wrap up just our whole topic of NASA Part 2.
That wasn't the guess.
We haven't even gotten into.
I know, but we did. We talked about how the sun
We got every
rotated
week,
around the
right?
moon and
A little bit more each
or I
week.
mean around the Earth and whatnot. Like just give a whole sum up as to what we spoke about.
All right, I'm going to see if I
What
can
we
leave us
spoke
with
about.
one more interesting point before we close this mug down.
This is an amazing show, by the way. I had
It
a
is.
great
You
time.
like this one so far?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Oh yes, I learned so much.
I gotta go home
I
and
always
prove
do.
Dave
I always
wrong.
learn a lot. I'm really excited about it.
Let's just go with this. What do you guys see here?
Rodney Dangerfield.
Okay, what are we looking at?
Elvis, like
Gravestones.
gravestones of very
memorials.
prominent
Mel Blanc.
people in life.
And what do people put on their gravestones?
Well, they got a protection.
No, that's.
Do we know who
that's
Mel
Star
Blanc
David.
is? Bugs
Oh my
Bunny?
goodness.
That's
Yeah.
Jewish.
You thought it was Walt Disney?
I thought it was a swastika. I'm sorry. Don't listen
No,
to
Star
me.
David.
Yeah, protection. symbol.
Star of David.
Is it Star David?
Do you have
Yeah.
new contacts in today?
Yeah, we got 1 minute.
All right,
left.
Rodney. Okay, Rodney
Rodney
Dangerfield.
Dangerfield.
There's his famous quote. There goes the neighborhood. Frank Sinatra. The best is yet to come. These are all odes to what they did as a human, right?
Yes.
I mean, these guys all had pretty big accomplishments, right? Steve Jobs. I told you guys regarding the Flash. Now, a man, if you ask me, that has a lot more to brag about. This man supposedly got us to the moon, but we don't see any Apollo recognition on here.
Right.
This is the headstone of a God-fearing, humble man. And it's just so odd. Of the 30,000 verses in the Bible, this guy chose the one that says there's a dome over this place.
Oh wow.
Oh yes, I know about
That's
the
weird.
Yeah, they speak of the
That would
dome.
explain. You
That
know,
is
they
weird.
tell us.
Can we
Psalms
get into that
19:1?
next week because we're out of time, you guys.
Psalms 19:1 essentially says God declares his glory by the covering over earth. Meigs, I'm messing this up, but is that close enough
Firmament.
for us to be able to say goodbye?
Let's pick up on
Yeah,
that next week.
can't work by the firmament. Basically,
yeah.
is what you-
All right, let's do this. We're not trying to bring glory to evil. We're just an Ephesians 5:11 operation. We're going to tell you how they operate, where they hide, what their little tricks are, and how to overcome it so you
And
don't
we're
get
gonna do
swept
this
up in
next
this
week
mother.
because we're awesome.
Get to know, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters here.
Jesus.
Do not believe us. Do your own research. Find out who
Yes.
Jesus Christ was and what it is he came to do.
And
because
thank you guys for
your
watching.
soul depends
listening,
on it.
Essentially, the
commenting,
time.
and have
It's
a
nice
the
to
time,
have
the
the
walk of
family back
Jesus.
together.
So listen to the
today.
Gospels.
Bring it on in.
They smell good to
so
boot.
Good. So good. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next week on the
401
401 Show, CRBradio.com.
And we might actually talk about NASA one of these days.
Bye, guys. Love ya.
Out of business before the time we start talking. NASA, they closed down 9 years ago. Again? I'm not saying.
I won't pledge my allegiance to anybody but me. We living in the dark and not everybody can see. Illuminati got their eye out, they watching you pee. But in America, we dumb as could possibly be. One nation under God, it's the home of the slaves. It's on the back of dollar bills getting thrown in our face. The TV says to do it, everyone goes and obeys. Literally shop until you drop and you go to your grave. Meanwhile, our country's turned into a police state. Caught up in the 1984 remake. And everybody's at the mall eating cheesecake. Or partying and drinking till they can't think straight. Wake up, it shouldn't be like this. Living in some sort of sick reality with a twist. Wake up, and I'll be screaming like this until I cease to exist. I'll never cease or desist. Don't let nobody tell you what to do. Resist. I'll show you how to do it like this. Rebel. We're already living in hell. Rebel. We're already living in hell. Refuse. Don't let nobody tell you what to do. Resist. I'll show you how to do it like this. Rebel. We're already living in hell.
There's no mercy.